Hey Clashers, I think it's time to actually revamp my ranking for the spells and for the troops for the clan capital. Because you might all remember this ranking right there, which we have came up with in the beginning of the update. But obviously this was just like me speculating about what type of troops are getting used and what cases and how many times. So I feel like after the first couple of weeks where the update is now live, we have learned a lot about it. So let's dive into the ranking and let's get ready with the lowest tier. And I feel like we have a new worst troop in the game. I always thought it would be the super barbarians, but I feel like I was wrong on that. And I felt like I completely misjudged the value which the super barbarian can bring to the table, and instead, in my opinion, it's the minions. Because the minions, I feel like, is always getting replaced with something different. For cleanup, you can just use, I don't know, barbarians for cleanup. If you have to go through a wall, you can still use the battle ram for cleanup because it's going to spawn little barbarians. So there's always feel like a cheaper way to clean up, which is less risky, which is just better. So I feel like minions are just the worst troop in the clan capital. The next worst troop is actually the super wizards. And for that, I think I would need to have to talk a bit more about how this ranking works. Because every good ranking is based on some information. Let's put it this way. So first of all, you cannot compare, for example, Capital Hall 3 troops to the Mountain Golem, right? Because that's where you haven't even unlocked the Mountain Golem. So we have to talk for Capital Hall 7 and above, because this is the point where you have unlocked every single troop in the clan capital. So this is what this ranking is for. As soon as you have reached Capital Hall level 7 and higher, then you can actually compare the troops and then you can actually come up with the proper ranking. Before that, it makes no sense to come up with a ranking if you have not even unlocked a couple of those troops. And that's the problem. As soon as you're getting to Capital Hall level 4, the super wizard is getting more and more and more useless, and at some point he's just unusable. One giant bomb, one rocket artillery shot, one anything, and he's just getting taken care of. So the super wizard, in my opinion, the second worst troop in the game, with another troop coming close, which is the skeleton barrel. It's not giving you too much value, it is not too great overall in most cases, and it just feels like it's getting too easily countered. Like, as soon as there's one small bomb around somewhere, where right now a lot of people are using ground traps, it just feels like the value for the housing space is just not there. And that's, to me, is the bottom 3 troops which are having actually a really big gap. So in between of the skeleton barrel and the next troop, which is the Hawk Raiders, there is actually a big gap in between. Because to me, you can actually split this ranking up in 3 different slots. The first one is the top 2. The top 2 are by far, we're going to get there in just a second. And then we have the bottom 3, and the ones in the middle are really close to each other. Like, power-wise, I just feel like they're all pretty good, they're all usable, they're all, in some attacks, being viable. And I think the balancing team had done a great job with balancing those middle troops. The ones which are above and the ones which are below, those are like the bigger problems. But let's move on in the ranking. So the next one on the list is our Hawk Raiders. We have just talked about them. They're kind of nice. They feel pretty decent, especially combined with like a Mountain Golem, for example. But I feel like they're just getting overshadowed sometimes from the rocket loons if you're taking with air, for example. Otherwise, Hawk Raiders, for sure a usable troop, which has some nice use cases, but it's just not at the same level as some of the others. Next one, Super Barbarian. It's nice to bring Super Barbarians just to trigger traps, for example, or for cleanup, as we have already mentioned. But it's a supportive troop. Like, you cannot bring an army of Super Barbarians later on and hope that you're going to have success. So that's why I put him kind of a little bit lower, but still, we got him up ranked because he was my first ranking, the lowest, the worst troop in the game, which I have to say, that was completely wrong by me. I feel like the Super Barbarians are way stronger, they're a pretty decent supportive troop, but that's why we cannot put him any higher. The next troop is the Super P.E.K.K.A. And it's like a problem for me, because on one side he's not too bad, but then if you then consider again the housing space which you need to invest into him, it's like, it's 40 housing space. That is a lot. Like, this is like 4 giants. That's a lot of housing space, so I feel like Super P.E.K.K.A. are usable, especially if you run into a lot of splash. But still, I feel like on a regular basis, there is just the super giants which are doing a better job of tanking. But before we're getting to the super giants, we're going to talk about the battle ram. I have ranked the Battle Ram incredibly high in my first ranking, and I still believe that the Battle Ram is an essential troop, a really important troop to get you the success you want to go for in the clan capital. The only problem being with the Battle Ram, same thing as with the Super Barbarian, it's a supportive troop, right? Like, you cannot make an army of Battle Rams and you're going to have success. That's not how it works. So I feel like this ranking is all about the troops which are really having a lot of impact. And even though the Battle Ram is an important troop where a lot of them are getting used during the attacks, it's a great combination with any other ground army if it's not the Mountain Golem, and you can actually make sure that you're getting a bigger deployment area. But at the same time, I feel like since it's a supportive troop, it cannot get a higher spot on our list. The next one we have talked already about, the Super Giants. The Super Giants are just, it feels like a better tank because you can split them up, they have pretty decent HP, and they're just great in combination with the Raid card. The Raid card, we're going to talk about that a bit later, but that's just a really good combination, and that's what makes the Giant really useful, being this tank in front of your DPS. Next one, and with that we're going to get to the next tier, we have like a triple troop combination, which I feel like we all should mention together. And that's the Rocket Loons, that's the the Super Dragons, and that's the Flying Fortress. Those three troops are working incredible in later stages together. Especially as you are unlocking more and more troop space, you're able to get those more expensive troops when it's coming down to housing space easier in one army composition. And this is where those three troops are shining. You have just an air combination of hybrid, which means you have the Flying Fortress, which is dealing damage to defenses, you have the Super Dragons, which are just dealing damage to everything, and then you can even use the Rocket Loons to snipe out certain defenses. Rocket Loons are, from the beginning to the end game, always in a useful spot. And this is what makes them, in my opinion, in the second tier, which means the second highest tier overall. And I feel like it's really usable to make sure that they're getting a lot of value in all of your attacks. The next one is the Mountain Golem. We can see it right now in the attack, and you can see as well that he's struggling in the beginning. Like, as soon as you're not really getting him to level 5 or even like higher level, he sometimes tend to struggle, but he's still being so high on my list because he's giving you so many things at the same time. Yes, you can use other armies, but then you have to bring jump spell, you have to bring wall breakers or anything to open up the walls. And that is what is the Golem so good about, and which is, I feel like, in this game mode so important. You are opening the base and you're going to give your next teammate the possibility of entering the base way further inside with increasing the deployment area. And I feel like that is an ability which should not be underestimated. He's powerful, he's a great opening character, but as well he's having a problem in the earlier stages because you do not have that many housing space, right? So for example, the same thing like the Flying Fortress, in the beginning where you do not have that much housing space, you cannot bring the support. The same thing for the Golem. So as soon as you're getting higher and higher with the housing space, you're going to have better possibilities of supporting him with the Hog Raiders, with cannon cards, with archers. There's many possible combinations. And as you're getting more and more housing space, he's going to become better and better and better because you can support him, keep it alive even longer, and open up the entire base. And this is what makes him so strong. But since we have now talked about the middle tier, which is every single troop coming from the Mountain Golem up down to the Hog Raiders, everything I feel like is usable. Yes, there are some things which are sometimes a bit stronger if you compare it to others, but overall all of those troops are really in a nice way usable and are good options if you're going into an attack. But since we had already the bottom 3, which are not, like, I would never recommend you guys using those bottom 3 troops as soon as you're getting higher in the capital peak level, we have 2 troops which you should always nearly use. And that is archers and that is the raid cards. Both troops are a little bit too powerful, in my opinion, on what they can actually bring into a fight. Raid cards feel like they are tanks, they are damage threats, they are everything at once. And that is a big problem, in my opinion, because not only they're incredible tanky, no, they even have a second life, which can make sure that if you're getting them into place and raging them up, they can one-shot defenses, and that is just insane. This is bringing the raid card, in my opinion, into the second best slot of the entire game, with only archers being able to overshadow them. Because the archers are just a troop for everything, which means they can get pushed into the core. As soon as you have access into a core of a base, you can just place a rage over there, and with the deployment area, which you have then conquered in the core of the base, you can just deploy them, make sure every single defense, even if it's well protected, you can take it out without any counterplay except the perfect traps against it. But as long as there is not the perfect traps against it, you're going to have no problem whatsoever. And that's why, in my opinion, the archers are on this rank 1 spot. They are just incredible as opening troops, as everything. But we have forgotten something, and that is the spells. In my opinion, the lightning spell, it was always meant as a filler spell, right? Like, the lightning spell was there to make sure that you have not a open spell capacity slot or anything. That's why the lightning spell is in the game, it feels like. The next one is the jump. The jump is like a nice thing to open up deployment area. Just overall a pretty decent spell, but obviously in the use case, the same thing as, for example, in the home village, the heal spell, or the frost spell, or even the rage are just way better than the jump. Heal spell, in my opinion, is a great thing, but getting later and later into the game, the healing is just less effective because you have to move longer ways. Well, for example, in the lower stages, in the earlier stages, the heal spell was you put them in on the base and the entire base was covered. That does not work later on in the I don't know, in the game. So that's another thing why I put the heal below the frost. The frost spell is getting really powerful. As soon as you get all those powerful buildings out there, you can just frost them, slow them, get some nice value. And then in addition to that, you have the rage. I mean, the rage is not only the king in the home village, but as well the king in the clan capital. And that's my ranking. Let me know where I'm wrong. Let me know where you agree with me. Let me know if you would change anything. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys back tomorrow for the next video. Until then, see ya and bye bye.